Thanks for coming. So we have Radio Gaga, Mixtape for the End of Humanity. The basic premise of the book is that the last human has died. Nope. Shut it down. Shut it down. So the last humans have died, and a mysterious narrator is tasked with flying through the universe on our radio waves to warn any sentient species about what caused our downfall. This narrator has to put together the reasons why we fucked it all up and how we were oblivious to the horrors that we created for each other and for our planet. So the book is set on up like an old school mixtape. So inside every chapter itself is a different music track. And the whole idea is that imagining what, if any, sentient species could interpret our radio waves, which are physically racing at the speed of light through the universe, how they would interpret us. Right now, our radio waves have gotten more than 100 years from our planet. That is hitting at least like 60 to 70 different star systems with planets on it where other lives could be listening and interpreting us through the absurdity of who did let the dogs out? Or what did the fox say? So I'll read a little selection, and as one of the characters, Carly Kloss Marx, a fusion of the supermodel Carly Kloss and Karl Marx, says that pop culture is the opiate of the masses. Since religiosity around the world is decreasing, with more people being unreligious than religious within the next 5 to 10 years, what narratives are we using to guide our lives? And sadly, we aren't creating any sort of narrative structure of how we operate, how we interact with each other, who we are, and so we just let the secular consumerist messages of pop culture really fill that on up, forcing us to, have eating disorders, to feel insecure and anxious about who we are, and to buy lots of crap that we don't need. So that's why I've set on up this little psychedelic photo booth or psychedelic science fair section as like a little mini altar. And I'm gonna try to read the book to you today as if we were in some sort of religious setting. So please, everyone, open up your books to page 212. That's, we're going to be reading a selection from cassette 2, side A, track number 4, I'm Too Sexy. So I'm going to read it first, and then I want you all to read it with me and repeat back, okay? From the good book, from Fred Fairbass and Richard Fairbass. I'm too sexy for my cat. Too sexy for my cat. Poor pussy. Poor pussy cat. I'm too sexy for my love. Too sexy for my love. Love's gonna leave me. And I'm too sexy for this song. Okay, everyone ready? I'm too sexy for my cat. Too sexy for my cat. Poor pussy. Poor pussy cat. I'm too sexy for my love. Too sexy for my love. Love's gonna leave me. I'm too sexy for this song. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, everyone can put the books down because I'm just gonna be reading this chapter but skipping around a bunch, so I don't want actually you guys to see which parts I'm skipping or not. So, this is a story of one of the hyper-wealthy or mid-wealthy bougies and how sad and tragic life is for the wealthy individuals of the future. You just don't understand how hard they're gonna have it and what they're trying to figure out what to do with their lives. So, let's begin. Human number 8675309 had been selected in the 4th year of life as a potential shell, the corpus for the corporation. His mother, an Alpha Plus petty bougie, Jamae von Fistenberger, entertained 87 million humans as they strained on toilets and sulked in offices as one of the most successful Instagram models. She made a perfectly cromulent petty fortune from her keen eye for cross promotions. She would henna tattoo parts for her white body monthly with logos for whichever sponsor was the highest bidder. Feet by Dr. Scholl's corn remover, tramp stamp by Colin Blow Tea, arms by Chef Boyardee Arms, food for kids, workout weights for moms, trademarked. Lips by Maybelline, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's 2 pounds of liquid cement injected weekly, trademarked. Brows by Tweezer, a bow above her belly button with the logo and motto for cool sculpting, freeze your fat away. She was a walking, posing billboard and was stripped monthly and shellacked with new advertisements. Jemai's breakthrough sprung from a string of athlete lovers, mostly soccer stars and NASCAR drivers, who left their soiled jersey crumpled up in the corner of her room, dizzy from the sweaty all-night fuckfests. She'd invariably trip over the patch-covered clothes on her way to the bathroom. During her 412 such stumble, her blonde head struck genius, as well as the marble floor. After flipping her blonde hair hither and yon to inspect for cranial damage, she shouted, "Eureka!" Within a day, she was hawking hunks of her body in online auction blocks, giddy at the soaring bids. $85,000 for a thigh, $125,000 for a forehead, $62,000 for a coccyx, $10,000 for any pound of flesh. Sold, her agent would say. Number 8675309's father was Jemai's 786th athlete lover, Tyler Meeks, who won her over by promising that he'd transition from soccer star to her brand manager. Jemai had pioneered the idea, retained sole ownership of her body and its brand identity, and had the followers that companies chased after. But Tyler stood 6 inches taller, spoke with a voice an octave lower, and didn't have breasts that he warned would outshine the brilliance of her ideas. "Don't worry, baby, I'll take care of everything," he cooed, coddling her. Jemai, brainwashed since infancy to want a man on whom to shirk responsibility, acquiesced. They sealed their business and relationship deals on the same day, first in a boardroom signing ceremony and then in a lavish wedding. As he was carried in by a caravan of 14 elephants, she floated down in a hot air balloon. While her balloon burst with 65,000 cubic feet of heat, which raised her over the vineyard, she had a nagging sensation that she was forfeiting power and control. But she reminded herself that Tyler's penis length was in the 85th percentile of her lovers, girth in the 91st percentile, and tongue oscillatory power in the 99th percentile. And on top of that, he made her laugh every day. Human number 8675309 was a born product promoter. Jemai secured a $1 million deal with Google 4D Vortex to live stream his birth. Over 124 million viewers tuned in from dilation to crowning to cord cutting, and only 17% were fetishists. A fact that Google could identify by the vigorous twitching of at least one hand. Vaseline sponsored her vaginal opening. Along with being smeared vigorously every 10 minutes, the company had paid to laser all hair above her birth canal's opening and tattoo it with that month's slogan, "Vaseline helps skin stretch." Office Max flashed from the scissors that cut his umbilical cord, and hefty emblazoned from the trash bag where her doctor dunked her placenta, which she later fished out off camera and sold to a Serbian psychiatrist who paired it with some nice fava beans and a Chianti. The couple had offers to name their son after their pick of luxury brands: Bentley, Versailles, Gucci, Cartier, Burberry, X-Lax, Jell-O, and even Kleenex all pawed at the newborn. But both parents decided that this was one decision that was just too sacred to sell. Instead, they decided to name him after the tie that bound their love. 8675309, now named Brandon, was put to work from day one. He was wrapped in a velour blanket for his birth announcement / first cross promotion. Tufts of his blonde hair puffed next to his mother's nipples, dechapped by blistics. And after his long first day of work and life, he laid his weary head to rest in a 24-karat gold crib and stared up at his mobile of Maseratis. Jemay slogged through 13-hour days between hair, makeup, wardrobe, exercise, and dieting to look naturally refreshed. On top of this, she had to manage the 4 nannies who took care of little Brandon and oversee a household staff of 19 that kept her lawns cropped and her hedges fluffed. She was just too exhausted to notice her husband's absence. When she did, she didn't protest. His penile turgidity had shrunk to 17% of its former throbbing glory, and she shuddered when she smelled the stink of his breath, a mixture of fried fish, stale tobacco, cocaine, and acid reflux. She winced as his face sallow and pale, as it sagged over her whenever he attempted penetration. His fingernails cracked and bled as he clawed at her breast. Yes, she was glad for his absence. Even after all her years of insta-acting lessons at the Royal Tampa Academy for Dramatic Tricks, she couldn't bear to fake her way through another 4-octave orgasm to coordinate him man enough for him to retreat his flimsy flesh and then fall asleep. Yeah. She realized only after the bankruptcy orders rolled in that she should have questioned his truancy. Dun dun dun. She soon discovered the fish smell was tempura that flowed freely from a casino where Tyler spent most nights, and 91% of the fortune his wife and son sold their bodies amassing. It's just cards. It's just trips. It's just a night out with the boys. With each excuse, Tyler would ante up. Each ship he threw in represented at least $100,000 he'd lose at a clip. These small circles of blue, green, yellow, and red were used to trick his feeble mind to not comprehend the enormity of his loss. And his boys were full-grown men who were financial assassins. They latch on to dim-witted millionaires and leech them for all they're worth. Broseph Stalin, let's go to Vegas. We can take the 8 p.m. Hyperloop and gamble all night long. Leon Brodsky, throw down all the way. We can't show them we're pussies. Brodognoff, do just one more line off of that hot titty ball. The enablers poked Tyler's fragile ego until he hemorrhaged money. Within 10 months, he had lost $112 million, their second home along Florida's Fool's Gold Coast, his collection of antique ATVs, and his Wu-Tang Clan platinum records, which he purchased from the estate of the late, great RZA. Much later, Tyler swore that his downfall came from not his own folly, but because he was cursed by the ghost of RZA, Jizza, and the old dirty bastard who haunted him in a fever dream and reminded him of their prophetic warning. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. The twang of Tammy Wynette suckered Jemay to stand by her man as a swirling tornado of debt collectors sucked the remaining millions. Later, she wished she'd followed Loretta Lynn's sage advice and sent his squaw on the warpath that first night. She only escaped his cracked claws through widowhood. In exchange for forgiving his final $12 million of debt, Tyler agreed to let the casino permanently brand all 4 of his cheeks. The owners got him drunk on tequila, and Tyler smelled the burning long before he felt the pain. The scorching cattle prod seared his flesh with the crumbling ionic columns, iconic as the logo for Caligula's Palace Casino. The casino henchman left him at the sliding door of the hospital. After 3 days in the burning unit, he was released with strict instructions to slather his cheeks with antibiotic cream thrice daily to thwart infection. Instead, he teamed up with the only company who would sponsor his recovery, Fuzzier, a naturopathic drug company. He agreed to use only its patented tinctures of lavender oil, rose hips, and St. John's wort to bring down the pussing and the scarring. Septicemia set in on the 6th day. On the 7th day, with a stomach full of Fuzzier brand-name probiotics, amoxicillin and penicillin, his body went into septic shock. His liver, lungs, and kidneys shut down, and he died. Jemay looked positively radiant at the funeral in a beaded black mermaid flare dress by Giovanni. Brandon was dapper in a Cuccinelli tux and won hearts worldwide with his well-choreographed JFK Jr. salute to his father's coffin. Thankfully, that black veil pulled her out of the red. Casket by the Container Store, wake fruit by Edible Arrangements, cremation by Zippo Lighters, and bejeweled urn by hipcups.com. She was cash flow positive again. Her bankruptcy lawyer represented Jemay pro bono. Sonny Vanderfeller was a beta hot bougie who dreamed of finding significance for his life through the adoration of politics. He abandoned days lounging by his infinity pool and weekends on his yacht flotilla to sacrifice a decade as Pinellas County prosecutor. He desperately wanted to prove he was more than just the heir to the Summer's Eve vaginal douche fortune. As part of the settlement, he offered to take Jemay LLC off the market, privatize her, and cancel all her debts, if she agreed to stop commoditizing herself and become a stay-at-home mom for his twin sons, Aiden and Benton. As a hot bougie, he couldn't stand her petty ways and forced her to sign a contract to protect the privacy of his children. Brandon, on the other hand, was husked off like some last season skort and spent most of his days either at boarding school, at throwaway camps, or resigned to the darkness of his room's twirling closet in his new oceanfront mansion in Ratmouth, Florida, or Boca Raton. As a forgotten one, he skated through Ratmouth's fourth most prestigious boarding and horsing school. Here he hobnobbed with the off-brand heirs. But those knockoffs knew how to throw a first-rate party. The heiress to the Hot Pockets fortune dished hot gossip with her golden knishes. His first necking was with the entrusted billionaire of the Red Vines fortune, while the Hydrox issue cowered and cried in the corner, all too aware that they had grown rich from vessels gorging on their unhealthy treats. The always hilarious Zamboni grandson had a certain way of breaking the ice in any room. And from Oshkosh, the Bagosh twins brought the best drugs tucked in one of their overalls' 18 pockets. But which one? The guessing game was always such great party fun. Brandon longed for a more meaningful life than what sugar sticks and greasy meat and cheese pods could bring him. But his childhood had been so unremarkable. Like all bougies, he learned the skills of maid berating and the exacting science of social stratification. He knew how low he hung on the bougie ladder, much lower than his stepbrothers, but he found ingenious ways to suck up to the uppers and sabotage the downers. Oh, the tragedy of being just another upper, lower, middle, petty bougie bound for a cushy yet inconsequential job and a minor trust fund. But when he entered his 16th year, he embarked on the 3-month bougie initiation into adulthood, which would forever change the trajectory of his life. The becoming of age ceremony took only 4 hours of hacksaws, dissectors, retractors, scalpels, and 2 cups of his blood. But recovery filled the remaining months as these young bougies pupated before emerging from their white gauze cocoons and shimmering as the newly transformed moths of humanity. His mom took earnest interest at every doctor's appointment, along with renowned facial constructor Dr. Fremf. His mom helped choose the nostril flare and acute cheekbone angle for his new face. Even his step-papa offered encouraging words and the funds to get the full jedlicka, the most top-notch in male plastic surgery metamorphosis. Before he left for this solemn ceremony, his mom grabbed his hand in a surprise moment of intimacy. Someday you will ache like I will ache. She must be guzzling skinny girl quaaludes again, he thought. She twirled her doll parts around the room in her gossamer gown, singing, "Yeah, they really want you. They really want you. They really want you. They do." As the door shut behind him, he hopped into his Uber helicopter, bound for that Uber-Mensch creation center beneath Aruba, Jamaica, and shrouded in that Montserrat mystique. With her son gone, Jemay collapsed on the ground, crying, I fake it so real. I am beyond fake. Crack, crack, crack goes the mallet into his nose, smashing into 3 places. Slice, slice, slice goes the knife as it slides up his nostril and rips out the middle piece of cartilage. Zoom, zoom, zoom goes the hot adhesive that fuses his truncated cartilage with his nasal bone. Bzz, bzz, bzz goes the saw, shaving his cheeks and chin to square his jaw, although he found the results to be a tad too rumbicular. Snap, snap, snap goes his collarbones, and crank, crank, crank goes the rack, elongating his neck to baby giraffe length. Rip, rip, rip goes the thread through his flesh as his Dumbo ears are pinned back to his skull. Snip, snip, snip goes the scissors through his eyelids before each is pulled up and folded, giving him anime-sized eyes. Clink, clink, clink goes the rectangles of rock as these are slid beneath his eyebrows to pronounce a formidable brow ridge. Zap, zap, zap goes the electrolysis laser as each follicle in his arms, armpits, back, legs, his belly button, below his belly button, mons pubis, damaging each of these so severely that they would never sprout hair again. Slurp, slurp, slurp goes the hose as it sucks out the fat from his neck, thighs, and midsection. Squish, squish, squish goes the gelatin as it splooge into his lips. Flop, 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 sploosh goes the sailing bag, shoved into his chest cavity, solidified with ice 9-inch rock-hard pecs. Vroom, vroom, vroom goes the titanium reinforced shell, fused to his ribs to give his torso a capital V shape in a procedure called Adam's Revenge. All he remembered when he came to in an opiate haze was pain and bandages. Pain and bandages, bandages fused with pain and pain fused with bandages. Every part of his body ached and throbbed. He had never even considered his knees' undersides, but now the thousands of nerve endings screamed bloody murder after being severed to craft his perfectly sculpted legs. His lacerated eyelids sealed to the bandages, and he howled as the nurses yanked these off daily to clean his wounds. The ultra dewebification procedure, which elongated his toes that sexy extra half inch, took him 3 weeks to relearn how to walk. Oh, and that agonizing intertoe chafing. This both created and popped blisters. Thankfully, the recovery rooms were covered in rubber floors to soften his often falls. He was scalped to implant cyber follicles that would be coated to plume over any bald spot and could be updated seasonally with the hottest new hairstyles. But this itched infernally as his hair, skin, and bandages grew together as a mesh of him and it. It took 3 hours each day for the cosmetic hairdressers to cut the bandages and re-seal his scalp to his head. Ugh. And those cursed bandages that mummy smothered every inch of his flesh. These would snag on doorknobs, furniture corners, and toilet seats. Ooh, the pain as each tug exposed his raw flesh to the world. The staff trained him to fight all natural instincts and savor this pain. No pain, no social status gain, the loudspeaker screamed the mantra daily. He could sense he was surrounded by dozens of other bougie becoming-of-agers, but in the summer camp of the Cocoon, he wasn't able to communicate with any of them. He struggled to move his throbbing banana-sized lips, and his voice box hadn't learned how to hurdle the new golf ball-size Adam's apple. From air-conditioned rooms through a light sailing mist to salt-open wounds, he could hear the groans of these boys to men in their season of loneliness. But Brandon had to remind himself that it wasn't all so terrible. For a moment, he tried to conjure the pain the girls his age went through during their becoming-of-age gap year, before returning for a debutante ball, twirling in barely their dresses to show off their full body transformations. Ripped out ribs to subcutaneous corsets, slenderized thighs. It looked as if each girl walked out of a funhouse mirror, stretched and thin. So gorgeous. As the swelter of super summer simmered down now, Brandon returned a new man to start his junior year of high school. All the teachers ribbed the same corny joke on the first day back from the becoming of age summer. I see a lot of new faces in here today. But he was so much more than a new face. The other lesser bougies only received facial sculpting surgeries and a Groupon for a personal trainer in hopes of eventually molding that perfect bod. But calluses are crass, his steppapa reminded him and the twins. No, Brandon was fully transformed. He's 8% silicone, 6% titanium, 2% goat hair, and 1% marble beading. And all the betas would buckle before their new alpha. He had even vaulted himself above the RC Cola air. His stepbrothers gasped when they saw him. Brandon had started with a much better pedigree than they had. His much hotter parents had given him an advantage over the twins. Sure, he still lived in their shadows. He suffered when the twins each received a thoroughbred horse sired by a Triple Crown winner, while Brandon wallowed with only a colt created through copulation with a stallion who peaked at Preakness. But he got a little thrill knowing that after identical surgeries, each was just a less hot version of him. It wasn't only his peers who oohed and awed over his imposing figure. Throughout his childhood, his height, weight, musculature, body fat percentage, family medical history, and genetic information were sucked from all sources and sent to Tone Deaf Corporation. And that is a selection from Radio Gaga, a mixtape for the end of humanity. So, as we were promised in the future, we would have amazing body modifications like bionic arms and amazing vision, but instead we're getting to all the same cookie cutter plastic surgeries and conforming to these obscene ideals. I had a friend she's a wildlife biologist who moonlights as a bartender in Utah, and she was in Park City for, what's the film festival there? Sundance! Yeah, and she was a bartender there, and she was like, I can't believe all the women look exactly alike. Like, they have the same blonde hair, the same facial features, the same breasts, the same, like, fake smile, the same eyelids up. Yeah, so this is just a chapter showing how we'll continue with pushing for these superficial body modifications instead of trying to create better humans and help ourselves. So that's just a little section of the book, and yeah, I'd love to take any questions or any conversations you guys want to have. How are people feeling? This is my first time doing this, so what was that? Was that terrible?
Good job! Good job!
Victory lap, victory lap.
Hey Stephanie, you're a visitor from the future, right?
Yeah, of course.
Technically future, other planets.
Yeah, same and, both ends. Yeah.
Time is distance.
Well,
Alright, so...
tell me what you got.
Yeah, what do we most need to know about our future?
Good question. I think the thing is, attention is the scarcest resource that we have, and what are we doing with our time and attention? What sort of frivolous things are we throwing it away on? As we continue to tell ourselves, like, oh, I'm just scrolling through Instagram, or I'm just gonna watch one more TV show. What are we not doing, and what are we leaving behind? And that, I think, is one of the themes of the book, is how we just have set up all these problems that we as humans could come together and try to tackle, but instead we allow ourselves to be willfully oblivious to this and give our attention to other places.
Would you describe this book as sci-fi?
Yep.
Social commentary, horror, all of these things?
All the above! So I call it a queering of the sci-fi dystopian classic of, oh my god, the humanity is ending. So it's a humorous take on this. I call the genre Gitchy Gitchy Yaya Dadaism. So it's a modern musical take on the 1920s nihilist Dadaist movement that vaulted urinals to, men's urinals to be centerpieces in art museums. So it's satire, it's campy, yeah. Yeah. And I know a lot of you guys helped me on out with the Kickstarter, and so I'm super humble that you guys did, and I'm super humble that you guys are all here and continuing to support me. It's pretty rad and amazing. This is my first event. I just bought a van. I'm driving around the country for the next 6 months, living in that, and harassing different bookstores like this lovely space to convince them to let me do events. As someone who is independently published, it is, difficult to figure out how good you are. So like I live in Oakland, I was working with a local Oakland librarian, and she was like, okay, we'll take a few of your books because you're local, but like I saw the reviews on your website, they're cute, but they're obviously from your friends. Like you need to like get outside, verified, like legitimate reviewers. So I just got one today from Kirkus Reviews, one of the top 4 most trusted review sites for books, and they said it was an entertaining, exciting farce, like neo-futurist experiment. So all positive, great reviews. So it's exciting to jump on this. So thank you guys for all of your love, support, commitment. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for being part of this process. And I'll be here to answer any other questions. Oh, and because the book is set on Mixtape, I have YouTube and Spotify playlists that I've made of all the tracks that are in the book. And if you guys, has anyone used the Genius.com music lyric site?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a music lyric annotation site. And so I coded the online version at RadioGagaMixtape.com to have, there's like 2,200 plus literary allusions to like pop songs, pop culture moments, movies, other things that I was envisioning as I was writing the book. So I coded a version of the website that uses the Genius.com annotation software. So you'll see the different parts highlighted, and you can just click a button, and from the corner of the screen will pop out like the YouTube video of the thing. So you can go as deep as you want with this book. So yeah. Liv, random person over there who I've never met before.
No, never.
Not a Kickstarter door. Oh my God, you are.
There are a lot of very smart, insightful inside jokes across lots of eras, like the Oshkosh. Like, is this just your brain, or did you? Well, part of it, yes, I know, it's your brain. But what research went into it, or what?
Yeah. So,
how do you know all this stuff?
I mean, it's really sad. It is my way of taking all the shit that was brought into my brain and trying to churn it into something and to help me deal with our existential crises, the 2 of which that I see are climate change and what I'm calling the Great Disruption, which is, as I mentioned in the video, when 80% of all job tasks will be automated. How can I take all of this, I love the frivolity of pop music and pop culture. I should have been finishing getting ready, but I was late because I had to watch Taylor Swift's new music video because I know, because these things happen and I can't turn away, but I need to. And so I was like, how can I use the vehicle of pop culture and pop music, which literally, because it's in the radio waves that are in the air, is everywhere around us, and bring that together to use that like collective language of pop culture references to kind of be the vehicle that drives this story and then drives us to think about these existential crises and what we're doing and what we're not doing.
Can that stuff be used for good?
I mean, that's what this experiment is,
in
exactly.
Addition, but for those of us who aren't as spectacularly creative, what can we do? Are we buying certain artists because are we not listening?
You're supporting me, you're supporting, like, you came here today. I think just be more questioning of, like, what are the corporations, what are the different things you buy, what are the different things you do? Maybe just taking an audit of your life, and it's very fascinating how our modern, like, capitalist society makes us such easy passive consumers of, like, large amounts of plastic or other things, and that we don't, put too much thoughtfulness into, like, oh, every step we take or every package we order is causing this much waste. Yeah.
Boycott Amazon.
Sure, yeah. You, sir, random man.
How long do you think we have before there's a point of no return and civilization collapses into this terrifying future?
Read the book! No. I mean, so are we talking about climate change, or are we talking about the like automation and the Great Disruption?
I guess both. I mean, like, how long do we have until there's just these climate control bubbles with the
Like in the book? Yeah, I mean, it is already beginning. If anyone has looked at the architecture, those were photos from malls in Dubai that they have actually set up that now cover like 10 city blocks in a perfectly cooled and climate controlled dome in the middle of the desert where it gets up to 120 degrees sometime. And there are ski lifts. There are places to ski in the middle of the desert. So I imagine that architecture, since it's already being created, is just going to be expanded and expounded upon. And like, as I say in the book, the super wealthy always have a way of being able to change spaces to meet their needs. I mean, it was only like, what, 50 or 60 years ago that the first like large-scale air conditioners were set on up, and now like so many people live in the South, in the American Southwest, because they're able to have these large machines that groan from the side of their homes every day to create, you know, climate-controlled buildings. We first had climate-controlled rooms, and now buildings, and then I imagine pretty soon cities. But it'll be like really great in October. There's gonna be like the pumpkin spice latte scented air, and then like in November it's gonna be like turkey air, and then in the morning there's gonna be like fresh hazelnut coffee smell wafted through the air around like 7:30 in the morning. Yeah. Yes, you.
I'm curious about the research you did on the reconstructive surgery.
Oh, sure.
How, I mean, just out of curiosity, how, having had to deal with editors who really on this kind of stuff, how did you find, was that all accurate?
Yeah, I did way too much research. There's way too many videos of people going through plastic surgeries, and then there's lots of websites that actually like pathologize different things that are quote unquote wrong with humans' bodies, or especially women's bodies, and how they should be, you know, corrected.
Well,
And
for
so
example,
like
the percentage of metal.
Oh, the percentage, I mean,
Yeah,
those things, I mean, that's the great thing about being a sci-fi writer and satirist. Like, I'm able to, like, research and see where things are, and then, you know, extrapolate and then add, you know, 10 times, tenfold the amount of things. So, I'm not sure if anyone is fully 2% goat hair threading, but I imagine in the future that might be happening. You in the back!
Yeah.
What's up? Oh, you got some goat hair? Nice, love it.
Where do you draw your inspiration for the human condition?
The inspiration for the human condition of what?
In your book, like the characters, how they behave, what they're...
I mean, again, it's just like seeing what the world is right now and extrapolating, and then just seeing why we have never been more connected with humanity, and there's been no time where we've been as connected as we are as humans, and we have more resources than we've ever had to solve any sorts of problems, but we don't have the will and like political power to do these things, and what are we wasting our time and attention on instead? And so it was very much kind of seeing where people are putting their attention into and then extrapolating on that. And then again, like with the story of Brandon, you know, he's got all the money in the world, or at least like very, very comfortable, you know, place. He's got his yacht flotilla and his infinity pool, but like still he's not happy because humans are a silly social animal that create ever receding ideals of what is luxury and what is perfection that every human tries to race towards and feels anxious about not quite reaching, and then goes to great lengths to do absurd amounts of plastic surgery and throw lots of money away to try to reach these ideals. But in the end, you're like losing yourself, and then you're also losing what it means to be human, or what it means to be helping out with other humans. So that's it's called A Mixtape for the End of Humanity, and humanity means many different things, both like what we create as humans. So right now, 90% of all pop music is auto-tuned. So what happens when our emotional language singing is taken over and altered by robotics, but also like what does it mean to be human when a large percentage of the human's bodies will be completely changed through plastic surgery or other ways like that.
Do you talk about Cher in the book? I mean,
Of
because she's
course.
why we have.
She is. It is in the
Auto-tune
first
with
chapter.
Raycon, right?
Yeah,
She's
absolutely.
totally Cher, and her body is not his body.
At all, no. I mean, yeah, it's in the first chapter. It talks about Cher and her song "Believe." She was the one who brought autotune into the mainstream into the mid to late '90s. Do you believe in love after love after love? She brought it in because she's got a great voice, but she was like, what a great novelty to like. It's the late '90s. It's like '98. Let's do something futuristic and have this thing called autotune. And then she brought it in, and then everyone's like, ooh, that seems like a really cool tool that I can take these people who can't sing, Katy Perry, and then just change their voices to make their notes hit the tone that they should. Yeah. So Cher, of course, is in it, and I mean, I'm not begrudging people who have to live in this world and get massive amounts of plastic surgery. I just adore people like Cher and Dolly Parton who are very forthcoming about the amount of plastic surgery and knowing that they are in this game and they are part of that game. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Okay, I have like a two-part question. One
Sure.
is like, I keep reading all of this stuff about this whole like influencer industry, and it's
Yeah.
obviously huge because all these people are getting really rich. But I myself have like never met anybody who's like telling me about what's going on with the Kardashians. I don't think I know people that
Good.
really
Stay
pay
away.
attention.
Stay away.
So it's like one, what do I like? Who are these people that are paying attention to this? And like, what do I have to do to like meet one of them and find out about this? And two, because I am like
There's probably some in the room.
so like exposed to this, does that say something about me that I am like experiencing this like ivory tower like class divide bouginess thing?
I mean, good on you for recognizing that. I mean, like, every once in a while I will go to like the Billboard Top 100 or other things that like show you what is actually popular, and I'll be like, what? I don't know these things. I don't know these songs, but like just recognizing like what are the most watched shows and watched other things, and then you have to recognize like, oh, if I'm not consuming those things, but like millions of other people are, like how am I apart from that, or how am I separate from that?
How many people actually watch the most watched shows though?
I mean, yeah, like so many, and like tens of millions or so. Yeah. And then like, I mean, Friends, it's been off the air for 10 plus years, but they just got $100 million Netflix deal to be exclusively portrayed on Netflix, just because people are constantly consuming these things. I know some folks who just like are doctors, but like when they're home and they're doing things in their house, they just have the Kardashians on the background because, the inanity of it all just like lulls them through the suffering of their day. Yeah, because pop culture is the opiate of the masses. Yeah.
How many CDs went into the making of your dress?
Good question. So, I tried to figure out what is the best way to physically embody the book itself and also create like a fun anti-pop persona. So I'm going for Massey librarian that found out that she's a superhero and decided, fuck it, I'm just gonna write a book and do this. So it's about 40 or so different CDs, and then I took a record that I spray painted gold. And this is actually a Richard Simmons.
Yes.
Len and I used to go to Richard Simmons' workout class in LA. Yeah. Richard Simmons sings Broadway show tunes while shouting at you to do squats record that I spray painted gold and mounted as my halo. And then, of course, the cassettes on the wings itself. And the idea is, we create this ethereal idea of angels, but in actuality, like, our radio waves, again, are racing at the speed of light through the universe, and radio waves are composed of photons, and photons are subatomic particles that are, like, literally millions of them can dance on the head of a pin which is, what the medieval scientists would always try to figure out, like, how big is an angel and where are all the angels? And it's like, actually, we got these things called photons that can do much more than what angels could. So that's the inspiration for the outfit. I know. Yeah. Awesome.
Where are you going next on your book tour?
Going to Portland. I'll be there on Saturday. I just got a event Saturday afternoon at Mother Foucault's on Southeast Morrison. If you're going to be there, Pablo.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, perfect. Just bring all your friends. Yeah. And so I'm just doing like a 2.5 week trial, living in my van and going to Yosemite, Crater Lake, and the Olympics. So if you check out my Instagram, which is just a portfolio of BS stuff that I've been doing, I've just been like standing in front of waterfalls in this outfit in Yosemite Park or in a rainforest in the Olympic Peninsula, reading excerpts of the book. So you can see all of that silliness there, because I know like I gotta play this game, so yeah.
What's your Instagram handle?
Stephanie Balsara.
Okay, great.
Yeah. You can check out the photo in the back of the book, and that will be the photo of me there. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. How did you make that?
Make that photo?
Yeah, that is.
So I took, so the name Balsara is Freddie Mercury's real last name. Stephanie is Lady Gaga's real first name. And I took photos of them. I find them to be two of the most talented musical artists that we've had in the past, 50 years. Both of them, aren't, like conventionally beautiful individuals, but they are just so talented and charismatic. But then when they became famous, they became so shellacked with glamour that it changed, the very nature of who they were. So I took photos of them before they were famous and then merged them together to create that lovely photo.
What technology?
I mean, I just went to like mergephotos.com. Or it's one of those things like celebbabies.com. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'd never go on there.
Never! Go here, I love you.
I
You
was
in the
gonna
back.
say, it does totally look
So,
like Freddie Mercury.
two things.
Yeah.
First, a comment. I feel like it's a question. I feel
Sure.
like your tits could cut me. Is that intentional? And two, do birds ever attack you, whether it's because they're jealous of your waves or
Shinings.
Yeah. So far I'm trying to keep my body, as natural as possible. So I'm sorry that my tits are like shaped like razor blades and can cut you.
it's the CD?
Oh, it's the CDs themselves. Oh, yeah.
Sharp.
That is
Sharp.
They're actually not that sharp. I mean, like, when I cut off the pieces of these CDs, like, I was watching Legally Blonde for the, 837th time while doing good work making this outfit. But, like, I was sanding the CDs that I cut up down because, you have to make sure that those sharp things don't hurt you. So,
Wow.
yeah. And I've yet to be attacked by any birds, but I do love when I'm, like, I have this lovely tripod set on up and I am, reading an excerpt of a video and elderly tourists are like, wait, what? Because usually I find like a secluded part of a trail or something and then like they turn a corner and then they're like, come right on through and they're like, wonderful interactions, but I don't think I'm quite the flora or fauna they imagined meeting that day. Yay.
I have one more question.
Sure, yes.
Who's your favorite sci-fi author other than Stephanie Balsara?
Kurt Vonnegut. I just adore him, and I adore how he's able to like move and weave through sci-fi and regular reality in just such a lovely way. I've read like a dozen of his books, and like the Ice Nine that Brandon has injected into his pecs and then made to be rock hard. I think that's from Breakfast of Champions. There's a few other allusions to Slaughterhouse-5 as well. I think he is such a great way of using sci-fi to kind of force us to look at our own lives and our own worlds in a different way. And so that's one thing that I've always been trying to figure out, because like sadly we are all humans, and wonderfully we're all humans, but part of being human is that we're trapped in a lot of narratives, and who are we in these narratives and how can we play with these narratives? And I find that Kurt Vonnegut plays with the sci-fi narratives in a great way, weaving them together with like the real world. So like, has anyone here read Slaughterhouse-Five? Yeah. And just like, he's like, everyone for like 20 years was like, you were in World War II, you got firebombed in Dresden, like you should write a great book about it, you're a great writer. And then he tried, but he couldn't write a book about his experience there. But he could only write like a sci-fi book of a guy who was similar to him, who then also got abducted by aliens at some point. So that could be the narrative that helped him shine the light on what it was like to be firebombed in Dresden in World War II. I don't know how to end these things. Anyone have any other final questions? Yes. Thanks, guys. I got books if people want to buy some books, and I would also love to take a group photo with everyone. And I have a Polaroid camera, so we can take Polaroid photos of folks, and you guys can use that as your things, that bookmarks. My mind is slowly starting to break down. So, thanks, guys.